everybody, welcome to our weekly video. I am talking to you today from London, England, where I am visiting my mother. May she live and be well, in good health. As you can see, it's a beautiful day out here. People beat up on the British weather. I don't know why. It's 50 degrees, lovely. I'm standing outside in my jacket. I'm perfectly comfortable. Anyway, I'm going to do something interesting today. I'm going to tie in the weekly Torah portion and the holiday of Tu B'Shvat that we celebrated just yesterday. First, let's start with Tu B'Shvat. What is Tu B'Shvat? Tu is Tet Vav, which is 15 of the month of Shvat. And that is called the New Year for trees. What is the New Year for trees? Since when do trees have a new year? Well, there are many laws in the Torah that relate to fruit trees. For example, if you plant a fruit tree, or even if you replant it, you're not allowed to eat the fruit for the first 3 years. When does a year start? Well, it starts prior to Tu B'Shvat. Anything prior to Tu B'Shvat is considered the new year. Anything after is the following year. So from Rosh Hashanah till Tu B'Shvat, I think, basically, or anything till Tu B'Shvat is 1 year, and then after is another year. I can't be sure exactly. We can look it up if you'd like, if you have any questions on this. So what's this about the new year for trees? What does it mean for us? Most of us, even if you plant a fruit tree, it takes more than 3 years for it to bear fruit. What's going on with this? So let's get into this a little bit of metaphorically, the deeper meaning of fruit trees. The Torah tells us when we go to war, we're not allowed to chop down fruit trees. In Deuteronomy, it says, because is a tree a human being? Since a tree is not a human being, you can't chop it down. But it uses the phrase, is a tree a human being, in a question form. But the Talmud, the rabbis say, let's read it in a non-question form, a statement form. A tree is a human being, which is one of the brilliant things about the sages. They were able to take the same phrase and actually read it in a different way to extract its metaphoric, its deeper mystical or sort of allegorical meaning. So here we have a tree is a human being, or a human being is a tree. How is a human being a tree? So this is actually a common metaphor from our sages, that there's the trunk and there's the roots and the branches and the fruit, and all of these have different meaning. The roots is our faith, our connection to our past, to our heritage. The fruit is how we influence others. The influence that we have on others continues on, just like the fruit. In fact, Chassidus explains that to appreciate the infinity of God, you have to look at the earth. Because this earth will continue to produce forever. It constantly has the ability to grow new crop and new fruit and new vegetation over and over and over and over again. Even if you just let it lay, sometimes we have to rotate crops, as well known in the farming community. But again, the following year, that same soil can regenerate and have new crop. This is the infinity of God that we can experience on earth. And in a sense, a human being is the same way. A human being can have children who will have children who have children, go on ad infinitum. And spiritually, this is true also. And this is perhaps why the analogy to trees is to fruit trees. We don't say human beings are like carrots, or human beings are like grass. A blade of grass can't produce another blade of grass. But a tree that bears fruit can produce another tree. Those fruit contain the seeds for the next tree. And the human being has within him or her that potential to influence another human being that will then have the influence on another person and another person forever. Which is why our sages say that children is also a metaphor for students. The people that we influence are considered like our biological children in some way. Because the influence that we have on them could then go and influence another and another forever. And that's actually the duty that we all have, to influence others. How do we tie this to the weekly Torah portion? Well, In this week's Torah portion, the Jews crossed the Red Sea, or the Sea of Reeds, to be more accurate. They cross the Sea of Reeds, and they see this miracle that they walk through on dry land, and then the Egyptians, they look at the seashore, and the Egyptians have been killed. The Egyptians that they thought were chasing after them and entering through the dry land actually were drowned by the walls of water that caved in on them as the sea split for the Jews. It drowned the Egyptians. So Moses gathers the people, and they sing this beautiful song. And then Miriam, his sister, gathers the women, and they also sing a song, a shorter song, but they sing it with instruments. And the rabbis tell us that the song of the women was by far greater than the song of the men. The women had the faith. They brought instruments out of Egypt with them, because they knew that miracles were going to happen, and they would sing. And not only did they have instruments, but they also danced, which the Torah does not say about the men. Why were the women more excited than the men? So the Rebbe has an interesting take on this. He explains. Actually, it's from the sages, but the Rebbe elaborates on it. That because the decree was against the children, Pharaoh wanted to drown the children, the women innately felt that so much more than the men. A woman who has the desire to nurture life and instill and raise a child feels that attack of the Pharaoh so much greater than the men. Spiritually speaking, the woman and the mother is the one that instills faith in their children. Pharaoh wanted to throw them into the Nile River. Pharaoh wanted to throw them into the culture of Egypt. Pharaoh wanted these children to be Egyptian. Throw them into the main deity of Egypt. The Nile, is spiritually speaking, is to make them completely acculturated in Egypt. And for the women, that was so much more painful than for the men. And therefore, when they saw the miracle of the sea, the women, the joy the women felt was so much greater than that of the men. And the dancing and the music was so much greater than that of the men. And this is the idea that the whole purpose of Judaism, the whole purpose is to influence others, to raise the next generation to be strong and proud Jews, that they will then raise the next generation to be strong and proud Jews. Like the tree that creates fruit that will create the next tree. That's my message. And with that, I wish you a good Shabbos, a Shabbat Shalom.